It's very sticky, almost as sticky as super glue. They would take the isinglass, put it in a bowl, then they took their bandages, dipped them in it, and then wrapped them nice and snugly all the way around. That glued everything right back into place. And when they did that, the surgery was over. Okay, now we're gonna do my favorite, the guillotine amputation.
Sounds like fun.
Well, it was fun for the surgeon. I don't know how fun it was for the soldier.
Okay.
Now, he would use this one when his patient only had an infected finger or toe. This made it possible to just take that digit. Now, what he would do is place that digit on a block of steel called a medical anvil. He put the digit on the block of steel, then he picked up his osteotome. Now it's just a curved chisel. It was razor sharp on the bottom. But don't worry, mine's not. Now he would place it over that very last knuckle, and then the orderly over there would drop something. He'd make a big noise. When that patient turned his head to look, off that puppy came. Then he would reach into the fireplace and grab his flat cauterizing iron. He cauterized that knuckle, he packed in some Linton mixture, wrapped a bandage around it, and he was done.
Seconds later,
yes. Now, they did not get a nice soft bed for this one. It was considered outpatient surgery, and they sent him straight home.
Sure, off you go.
Okay, now the next one up is bullet removal. Now, the good news is they just had little round balls of lead for their bullets. They did not penetrate as deeply or do quite as much damage. But they also didn't have x-ray machines or decent lighting. Now, the surgeons here, they relied on their tools to find the bullet and get it out. The first one he always used, his finger. If he felt that bullet, he pulled it out. Now, this was the second tool he would use. It is his probe, a metal stick, and the tip was coated in porcelain. That's because when lead touches porcelain, it always leaves a mark. So he would stick it in and wiggle it around, hoping to find the bullet. He would know because when he hit something hard and pulled it out, there's going to be a mark there. Yes. Now, once that was done, he grabbed his concave forceps. Now, these are cool. See how they're indented?
Sure.
He would stick them in, wrap them around that bullet, get a good tight grip. Now, once it was out, they would pour vinegar water in. They knew that along with the bullet had gone pieces of his clothing, dust, dirt, maybe even a leaf or a twig. They were hygienic, so they flushed it, and that helped them to keep infection out because vinegar water kills germs. All right, let's see. The next one is the trepanation. Now, this one was used when somebody had injured their head and was exhibiting symptoms: nausea, disorientation, lack of balance, and unequal dilation of their pupils. They knew what this meant. Do you know what it means?
There's pressure on your brain? No.
Yes, very good. Perfect. Yes, they knew that fluid was building up and making pressure. Now, in order to relieve that pressure, you have to drill.
Yeah, you got to drill a hole in your head.
Yes.
Of course.
Now, I know what you're thinking, that this was very painful, but it wasn't. That's because while we have billions of nerves everywhere else in our body, we don't have any in our skull.
Amazing.
So you could drill all day long, he's not going to feel a thing.
Once you've got a hole in your head.
Yeah, they've relieved the pressure, but he does have the hole in his head. Now, the Spanish, they would use a silver coin to fold it, to close it up.
Sure.
That's because they used it for two reasons. The first is silver was their #1 export, so this was cheap and readily available.
Right.
Second, evidence-based care. They noticed very little, mostly no infection when they used it. Today we know why. It's antimicrobial. Here comes the fascinating part. Before they put it on, they drilled small holes all the way around it. Then over the next few months, the soldier's skull would grow bone right through those holes, making this a permanent part of his head.
That is amazing.
Isn't it? And we still do that today as well.
Wow.
Alrighty, now during this time, we already know they didn't know about germs yet, but they did know something was spreading disease. They didn't know it was germs, but they thought it was miasmas, noxious gases or odors in the air. So, to prevent that spread of disease, they did 3 things. They kept the windows open during the day to let fresh air in. They kept plenty of space between their beds. Check it out. Social distancing.
Amazing.
And finally, each room would burn their escafeta 3 times a day. The escafeta is a cast iron bowl with a bed of sand in the bottom. To it, they added burning hot coals from the fireplace and lavender, believing it would smoke the miasmas away. Now, it didn't do that because there's no such thing as miasmas. But there were people who thought about germs. They just got laughed out of the business every time they tried to bring it up.
Exactly.
Especially hand washing. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah,
Who needs to wash their hands?
Right. A little dirt doesn't hurt anybody.
That's right. Now, when they burned their escafeta, they noticed something. Their patients always became much calmer. And today we know why. Lavender is a calming aromatherapy. Now, they didn't know it, but it was preventing the spread of disease. That's because when you burn lavender or sage or rosemary, they give off carbolic acid, and it destroys viruses and bacteria right in the air. A little fun fact, the very first doctor who used killed germs during surgeries, Lister, the Scot, and he used carbolic acid.
Wow.
The same acid that they were using here, they just didn't know it.
So we're in the recovery ward. Is that what we've got here?
That's what we've got here. Now, there was some special things that they did with their beds. First of all, you're going to be surprised, but they were soft. That's because they stuffed those mattresses with Spanish moss.
This?
Yes.
It doesn't look like Spanish moss. It looks like somebody's hair or something.
That's because they would boil it first to kill the bugs that like to live in it. We call them chiggers.
I didn't know chiggers lived in Spanish moss.
Yes, that's where they like to live.
That
I
would be
know.
bad.
Every summer, I made forts, and every summer I got chiggers because I used that Spanish moss to
Chiggers
stuff
are
my bed.
terrible.
Yes,
So
they are.
yeah, you definitely want to get rid of them. So it's it's nice and spongy and soft. And
It is very
you'd fill
soft.
this tick up.
You could just fill it up.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing about it was free. They just had to pull it out of the trees and boil it, which was very handy because of their hygiene. Every time they discharged a patient, they burned all his moss, laundered the outer covering, then restuffed it with fresh, clean moss for their next patient. So not only was that bed soft, it was hygienic as well. When a patient was given a bed, he was also given clothing, linens, and utensils that had the same number. This way, when they were taken out to be cleaned, they were brought back to the same patient, thus preventing cross-contamination. Now, the final bed is that one over there.
Okay.
You'll notice there's a hole in the middle.
What's going on with that?
Well, underneath that is a chamber pot.
Okay.
This was for leg amputees or any other patient who was too ill to go outside and use the latrine.
Okay.
That was the invalid bed. Today we call it the bedpan.
Yeah. And they have separate
Yes,
ways
they
to-
would, well, we just did this to separate the two. This would have been done in the isolation ward. And also because of those beds, to give that person privacy. Yeah.
It's amazingly modern in
Yes.
all these conveniences. You do some reading in other medical situations, other cultures, and it doesn't seem like it's anything close to this level.
None of them were doing any of this. There was no cleansing, there was no hygiene, and that's probably why they had such a high survival rate here.
What about you mentioned the idea of the priest coming along. Who are the people who are actually taking care of these folks, the orderlies?
These are the orderlies. Now, everybody in here would have been in the military. It was a military hospital. It would have been all men. I am an anomaly. I would not have been here because, first of all, it's military, and second, these are Catholics. It was completely unseemly for a woman to see a man in his underclothes, and vice versa.
Sure. Thank you so much, Kim, for your amazing quantity of information. It feels like I could ask any question about, Spanish military hospital, and you're going to have the answer to it. So thank you so much for that. If you're ever in the St. Augustine, Florida area, and you want a wonderful experience learning about medicine in the 18th century, come to this spot. You will get the information you want. Again, thank you, Kim. It's amazing. And thank you for coming along on this amazing medical journey as we discover what it's like and actually walk in the footsteps of people in the 18th century. They were in this very building more than 200 years ago. So thank you so much for coming and have a great day.